Durag Wisdom here, folks, and welcome to the Earth date Y2K 18.10.15, which is 22 days out from our midterm elections. And today I'm going to make a suggestion you may find absurd, but I don't think we have any choice, and it's only an opinion. But we must boycott the Supreme Court, now the enemy of the people. Let's not fool ourselves, folks. The U.S. Supreme Court has been in right-wing hands for decades. And now, with the ascension of rapist, right-wing extremist kangaroo Judge Brett Kavanaugh to our Supreme Court, it is official. We now have 5 right-wing scum kangaroo judges infesting our highest court, with 2 of them being cursed reincarnations of the despicable Anton Scalia. May his malignant memory be erased. Gorsuch, whose seat was stolen from President Obama by Bitch McDumbbell, is one Scalia, and Kavanaugh is now the second. There are just 4 liberals left on the court, and they might as well be staying home, because their voices will be drowned in a flood of right-wing Handmaid's Tale crap. The U.S. Supreme Court, as I've said, has been the enemy of the people for years, and now it is going to get worse. What has this right-wing court given us so far, pre-Gorsuch and pre-Kavanaugh? Citizens United, where corporations are people too, and they are allowed to exercise their quote-unquote free speech by being allowed to donate as much dark money as they can for any right-wing scum that they can. This is why a bloated-faced, comb-over fascist creep as Sheldon Adelson will be allowed to save the Republican Trumpists no matter what we do. And if he fails, there is always the Koch brothers and others. Imagine if the super rich of our planet gave much more tzedakah, charity, merciful justice to the rest of the world than they do now, to fascist totalitarian scum. Next up, this right-wing Supreme Court decimated the Voting Rights Act. Yes, and that is one reason why a freaking fascist, traitorous creep like Brian Kemp, ever see his campaign ads, of Georgia, is trying to get away with suppressing more than 20,000 votes of people of color. Democrats all. This is why we have voter suppression, gerrymandering. And note, I can't blame the present right-wing extremist traitors in their kangaroo court for the racist electoral college. That institution was created by rich white people and slave owners over a couple of 100 years ago. The right-wing Supreme Court ruled in favor of a company called Hobby Lobby so that religious extremists could decide what women who work for them can do or not do with their own bodies. I absolutely despise these right-wing religious extremists who want to make of our country an American Christian, Jewish, Muslim Taliban. And I say all 3 of these major religions because the fundamentalist extremists of all of them are trying to take over our lives. They will do this over my dead body personally. Now we have, thanks to the addition of gross Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, a new thing that they did to us. Labor unions will have more trouble collecting dues because of Scab Janice. They rule in favor of this creep to undermine labor and collective bargaining. If we're up to this court, we'd be back in the Gilded Age of the late 19th century, where the rich ruled and there were no labor unions, nor a middle class, nor a social safety net. The scumbag rich of our world want everything for themselves. It's all about money for these bastards. And this kangaroo Supreme Court is totally on board. It must be boycotted. The U.S. Supreme Court, with the addition of rapist Kavanaugh, is now officially the enemy of the people. And this is what we must partially do. 1, we must vote every single election, and especially the midterms and the presidential elections, which are equally important. All branches of our federal government are equally important, and all of them should be voted on, including that stinking Supreme Court. 2, in the meantime, we must boycott this contaminated court. We must demand that rapist Kavanaugh recuse himself from all cases of social importance, religious importance, labor importance, and environmental importance. His recusal must be followed by the recusal of all 5 of the tainted, right-wing, culture warrior, kangaroo judges. 3, if you are going before the court to fight for a liberal cause, Kavanaugh once again must be recused. And if they refuse to do this, then you refuse to allow them to try your case. Demand that an impartial lower court act in the place of the kangaroo Supreme Court. Justice is supposed to be blind, but it's not on this kangaroo Supreme Court. It is gagged and bound and locked in a freaking closet, ladies and gentlemen. You have to approve who sits on a jury. So why the hell is it the highest court in our land required to follow higher standards? 4, but hurry up and vote the Democrats in to both houses of the legislature so that a true check on the other branches will occur. In the meantime, the Trumpist traitors are celebrating their conquering of our Supreme Court and laughing in unison as they take over each and every lower court day by day. These son of a bitches are in charge of every branch of our government. Wake up and act, mother effers! Wake up and act! 5, we must take over every city, every state house, and every district of our country, and we must take this all away from these traitors. And again, do not allow the Supreme Court as it stands now to decide any cases. They are partisan! They are partisan! And they are partial to the extreme! Partial to the extreme! We don't expect this kind of behavior from any judge, and we should not allow it once again in the highest court. Term limit these creeps and boycott this tainted Supreme Court until they become a true, just, impartial court again. No future president should be allowed to choose a Supreme Court justice that follows his or her political agenda. How ridiculous! Only impartial, middle-of-the-road justices should be selected. There is no place in the courtroom for any kind of bias, political or otherwise. Especially, once again, on the highest court of our land, where so far these judges sadly have lifetime appointments. Ridiculous! Absolutely ridiculous! Now listen to this. While we're boycotting this cursed Trumpist Supreme Court, except for the 4 liberals that remain, I want you all to remember this. At least 60 million voters representing Trump's 40% will be out voting in 22 days. I believe all of them will vote for their God. Our side must return twice that number at least, and even more if independent voters side with Trump, and if young voters stay at home. If they have 60 million going out to vote who support that cursed scumbag, we must have 120 million and more. This Supreme Court travesty has awakened the right wing to fight even harder. I'm telling you, I know these creeps. I know how they think. And I believe that they can win. I believe that they can win. Why do you think I'm so upset? You think Bill Maher is cynical? Think Bill Maher is pessimistic? I've been pessimistic for most of my freaking life. I go to sleep at night angry and I wake up in the morning enraged. And if I have a freaking heart attack because of this, better dead than have to live in an absurd, evil world. As I heard on The Circus this week, it's a great show, you should watch it. Gets an idea of some good restaurants to eat at. So as I heard on The Circus this week from a former San Francisco mayor, I think his last name is Ford if I'm not mistaken, the right wing are so inflamed because of their support for the rapist Kavanaugh that on 7 November, the day after Election Day, we may awaken to a Trumpist party still controlling both houses of our Congress. A tragedy that I can't even contemplate right now in all its horror